If a cop shows up at your door at 1 in the morning, you open it. That's the rule, right? Badge, uniform, patrol car in the driveway. You trust it. You don't ask questions. I used to believe that too, until the night a police officer knocked on my door, and I found out later there was no record of him ever existing. My name doesn't matter for this story, so I'll just tell it to you the way it happened. I was 26, living alone in a rental house outside a small town in Ohio. Quiet street, maybe 8 houses total. Cornfields on both ends. The kind of place where nothing happens. That's exactly why I moved there. I worked second shift at a distribution center, so my schedule was backwards from everyone else's. I'd get home around 12:30, 1 a.m. I'd eat something, wind down, and go to bed around 3. That night was a Tuesday. Nothing special about it. I remember because Tuesdays were slow at work, and I got home a little earlier than usual, maybe 11:45. I made a sandwich, sat on the couch, turned on the TV, and that's when I heard it. 3 knocks, slow, deliberate, not the frantic kind of knocking you'd expect from an emergency. Just 3 knocks evenly spaced, like someone tapping out a rhythm they'd practiced. I looked through the peephole, and standing on my porch was a man in a police uniform. Dark blue, badge on the chest, one of those flashlight/baton things clipped to his belt. Behind him, parked at the curb, was a car with light bar on top. Not lit up, just sitting there dark. I want to be clear, I didn't hesitate. Why would I? It's a cop. I opened the door. "Evening, sir," he said. "Sorry to bother you this late. We got a call about a disturbance a couple houses down, and I'm just going door to door checking if anyone saw or heard anything unusual tonight." Made sense. I told him I'd just gotten home from work, hadn't heard anything. He nodded, wrote something down on a little notepad. The old school kind, not a tablet, which struck me as a little odd, but not enough to think twice about. And then he asked something that felt slightly off. "You live here alone?" I paused. Cops ask weird questions sometimes, I told myself. Maybe it's protocol. I said, "Yeah, just me." He smiled, and this small, closed-mouth kind of smile and said, "Good. Stay safe tonight. Lock up." And he walked back to his car. I shut the door, locked it, and honestly didn't think much of it. I went to bed a little after 2. The next night, same time, almost to the minute, 3 knocks. I froze on the couch. Something about hearing that same rhythm again at the same hour made my stomach drop before I even got up to check. I looked through the peephole. Same guy, same uniform, same car at the curb, lights off. "Evening again," he said when I opened the door. "We're still working that disturbance call. Mind if I ask you a few more questions?" I told him I'd already answered questions last night. He just kept that same small smile and said, "Just being thorough." "What time do you usually get home from work?" That's when the hair on my arm stood up. A real cop doing a real canvass about a real disturbance doesn't need to know my work schedule. I told him I wasn't comfortable answering that, and he just nodded slowly, like he'd expected me to say that, and said, "Understood. Have a good night," and walked off into the dark toward his car. I locked every door and window in that house. I didn't sleep. The next morning, I called the local police non-emergency line and asked if an officer had been sent to my street the past 2 nights regarding a disturbance call. The dispatcher put me on hold for almost 5 minutes. When she came back, she told me there was no record of any disturbance call on my street. No officer had been dispatched to my address. Not that night, not the night before. I described the man, the uniform, the badge, the notepad, the car with the light bar. She asked me for the car's make and model, which I gave her as best I could. She went quiet for a second and then asked me something that made my blood run cold. "Sir, was the patrol car marked with our department's decals? Our unit numbers on the side?" I thought back. No, it wasn't marked. No numbers, no department name, no decals at all. Just a dark car with a light bar sitting on top like an accessory. She told me very calmly in that practiced dispatcher voice that I needed to call 911 immediately if this man came back. She said what I was describing sounded like someone impersonating an officer, and that it's a known tactic. Get someone to open their door willingly. No forced entry, no broken window, just an open door and an invitation inside. I didn't go to work that night. I called off, packed a bag, and was ready to leave for my parents' house 2 towns over. But before I could get out the door, it was already past 11, and I heard it. 3 knocks, same rhythm. I didn't move, I didn't even breathe loud. I stood in my kitchen with my phone already dialed to 911, thumb over the call button, and I watched the front door through the crack in the hallway. The knocking stopped. And then I heard something I hadn't heard the other 2 nights. The doorknob. Turning. Slowly. Back and forth like someone testing it. Like someone who already knew the door was locked but wanted to hear the sound of it anyway. I hit call. I gave the dispatcher my address in a whisper and told her he was at the door right now. She kept me on the line, told me units were on the way, told me to stay quiet and stay put. I heard footsteps move off the porch around the side of the house toward the back door. Testing that one too. Then nothing. Just silence and my own heartbeat in my ears for what felt like 20 minutes but was probably closer to 6. When the real police showed up, marked cars, uniforms with department patches, the whole thing, the man was gone. No car at the curb. No footprints they could isolate in the yard, since the grass was too dry to hold a print. Here's the part that still gets me. The officers who responded told me they'd gotten 2 other calls that same month. Different streets, same MO. A man in an unmarked uniform asking questions about routines and whether the resident lived alone. Always around midnight. Always 3 knocks. He was never caught. Not in that town. Not as far as I know anywhere else. I moved out 3 weeks later. I still don't know what he wanted, not really. But I know what dispatch told me, and I know what testing the doorknob means when you've already been told no. To this day, if someone knocks on my door after dark, I don't check the peephole first. I check for the uniform decals through the window instead. And if they're not there, well, badge or no badge, that door is staying locked.